I would say the biggest thing is if life is not going the way, you want it to, if you're, not where you want to be, if you don't have that passion yet in life, just keep looking, but you can't stop looking, because if you stop looking, you're giving up. And I know we all have dreams as kids. I had a dream I was going to play in the NFL, and like sometimes dreams just don't work out, but it's not the end. You got to keep looking for your dream, keep looking for your passion, because when you find that passion, like I was telling him, like you're going to feel that fire in your chest again, and it's going to make it worth every single day. You're going to wake up and you're going to have that vision of like, this is the journey that I'm supposed to be on. And it makes life 1,000 times easier.
If insight is a destination, curiosity is the map. I'm Clayton, and this is Making Insight, where we connect the dots between growth, creativity, and what drives us forward. Making Insight, new episode here with Jacob Collier. Jacob Collier is the creative behind the brand Conscious Designs, and he's also the creative behind the Making Insight logo. Jacob, please take a moment to introduce yourself, and thank you for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Like you said, my name is Jacob Collier. Me and Clayton are old buddies from my time back in Cleveland, Ohio. I have since moved to Arizona in the Phoenix area. Like you said, I am the owner of Conscious Designs. Just in the past 2 years, became a creative, went to school for exercise science, which is kind of how we ended up meeting at a workout facility there in Cleveland. And I have made the switch over to a full-time creative. So I'm doing graphic design, photography, videography, editing, everything under that umbrella. So I'm super excited to be here and just super excited to talk about, both of our journeys.
Hell yeah. I definitely think it's cool we've kept in touch, and I definitely think part of that reason we kept in touch is the creative side, the creative hustle that we're both kind of in right now, doing different things. I'm podcasting, you're running a design agency. Tell me, what's the scariest thing about like putting yourself out there as a creative?
Yeah, dude, it's just putting, like that trust in yourself that, you have to go out there and hustle to, get everything that you want. And you kind of tell yourself that there's no backup plan, because if you do that, you're kind of planning on failing. So, you have to get over all of your fears. You have to get over your fears of sales. You got to get over your fears of like talking to people, putting yourself out there, putting yourself in these high pressure situations, like say for photography, shooting a wedding. The first time I ever did it, I've never been so nervous in my entire life. Somebody gives you that opportunity to go take pictures of them on their most, important day of their entire lives. So, just kind of dealing with like all that pressure and still trying to like enjoy it and remember like why you started doing it in the first place.
Who was the first person you helped that led you to believe that maybe starting a brand is worth my time?
Yeah. So my brother-in-law, his name is Dylan Bear. He is the owner of Bear Aesthetics. He is the one that kind of got me going. He's been huge for, my support system. He's always been that person that I could look up to, who's running a successful business. And, he gave me a shot. They needed a graphic designer, and I was literally just getting into it. And he was like, I'll trust you. I'll give you a shot at doing it. And sometimes you just need that one person to put a little bit of faith in you and just let me flourish and let me grow. Cause I had that confidence that like, man, if he can trust me, then, why can't other people? Somebody with a successful business is like, yeah, absolutely. Like, let's see what you can do. So that really gave me the confidence to just keep growing and keep learning. And without him, I don't think I'd be here right now.
How long ago was that? You said about 2 years ago?
That was getting out. Yeah, about 2 years now. We're getting close to it.
So, I mean, you're past your mid-20s, right?
Yep, I'm 26 years old right now.
26. So you started that about 2 years ago. Were you ever into design work or this type of artistry as a kid in your teens?
So weirdly enough, like if you would have asked me that a couple of years ago, I would have said no. But looking back on it, after, the time is gone, I remember as a kid just absolutely loving just drawing random things. Like I would never show anybody. My dad was like the varsity head coach for our football team. My entire identity was wrapped up in football. I was, just trying to be like that big tough guy, even though I'm not big or tough. Like it was just, I was trying to, embody that, football player kind of, person. But looking back, I had a business, small business painting shoes. I've kind of always had like a love for creativity, assumed because I wasn't the best drawer or painter that it wasn't for me. And that's when, I found graphic design. You don't have to be a great drawer or painter to do that. So and I've always had a love for technology.
Really cool. I definitely think those like moments show up in our childhood or like early teens, at least like for me doing the podcast. I know like there were plenty of times I had to make videos for like school projects, and like I was so into the recording process and just being on camera, and never really realized that until I got back into it. So
Dude, a lot of people hate being on camera too. And it's something that I hated at first, as funny as it is now that I have all these cameras. Like you get those nerves, that anxiety that like what you say is like permanent. What you say you can't take back because now it's out there. So, you learn to not walk on eggshells, but you have to like walk that fine line of being yourself and also, trying to be intelligent and not say some crazy outlandish stuff on a camera.
Dude, what you just said is so real, because I feel like my biggest struggle and challenge with putting my own words out there, putting myself out there, is like thinking I'm going to say something that other people are going to interpret as wrong, or saying something that has been said by somebody else and they're going to be like, oh, you're plagiarizing. But like, I think about it now, everybody's just recreating something that was said in the past. And it's actually really helped to alleviate some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like, I think that mindset of like, we're just kind of a small speck of dust in this universe flying around, that kind of always helped me out. Like just being like, this is kind of what it is. Like I'll get like 100 years here and then people probably won't remember me.
That is a real theme of my life right now. And I don't know how far you want to go into that rabbit hole, but I agree. So
absolutely.
But I'm here for it. If you are, maybe we'll get there a couple more minutes deep into this podcast. I did want to rewind back. You mentioned your brother-in-law helped you get started. Between then and now, or maybe in your entire career, even going back to making shoes and whatnot, what is the piece of art that you've created that you'd say you're most proud of?
Oh, it's absolutely my logos. So, as a graphic designer, I would say I unhealthily was obsessed with it. I created my own logo about 12 different times because it was just never good enough for me. And in my mind, for some reason, I always kind of like put myself next to like Nike, because Nike's what I consider is like the biggest, best brand out there. Like when somebody thinks like, what's the greatest brand? Usually people think of like Nike or something similar to it. So I was just kind of always like putting my logo next to Nike and being like, if it's not like close to it, I don't want it. If it's not like giving me that type of like, those butterflies in my stomach, like I'm so proud of that, then that's not the one. And it's tough because like, as like a brand creator, as a graphic designer, a lot of people are like, you have to pick those colors, you have to pick that logo and just stick with it. Because if not, nobody's going to remember who you are. It's going to be confusing. And I agree with that. And I wish I could have got it right off the bat. But obviously I had a lot to learn and a lot of, failures and lessons to, get through to get to the point where I could be happy with my logos.
Interesting. It makes me feel good that, I shuffled mine back and forth between us probably 10 times, falling
and you might do it some more,
I really will. I actually really love the simplicity of it right now, though.
Yeah, it's super clean.
Yeah. And I think when I started, like, I was giving you all these, like, colors, and I was giving you things that inspired me from other people. And then when you created this one for me, it just felt closest to who I am, as simple as it is. So I really like it right now, but life has changed. We'll see what develops as it comes. But you mentioned difficulties and, like, roadblocks in there. There was a moment where you had to change your name, wasn't there?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
Started off as, just conscious design. And turns out when you go to get an LLC, if somebody has your name already, can't have the same name.
Right.
So
did you file in Arizona or Ohio?
Yeah, in Arizona. So I made a quick pivot, just added a little S at the end. And it turns out like it makes more sense now, conscious designs, because I have since, spread out from just graphic design into, like I said, photography, videography, just doing everything as a creative. So it was meant to be, quite honestly.
Cool. I mean, I definitely hit that same roadblock when I did a podcast 4 years ago. I named it something and realized
you changed it pretty quickly. I think after we made your first logo too.
Say that again. Connection went out.
I said, oh my bad. I said you changed your name pretty quickly after we originally made your first logo too. If I remember correctly, it was Breaking Insight, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah. That was before I even recorded any episodes. And the theme with Breaking Insight and Making Insight, both of them I like the double play on the word insight. Like it's creating an insight and then it's also like insight.
Exactly.
So there was a similar thing. I recorded a podcast 4 years ago. It was called A Giveaway of Life. And before that, it was called the Lifeology Podcast. And I was recording episodes with Lifeology Podcast, not realizing that somebody had like copyrighted the term lifeology. And he reached out to me and he's like, you got to change your name or I'm going to sue you. And
You're like, okay.
yeah, I'm like, damn. Like I felt so miserable for a second.
Dude, I really do believe that stuff like that happens for a reason. Like there's something leading us to what we are supposed to be. Like I used to not believe in fate, but like the more I live, the more I kind of see that like weird things happen that seem like mathematically impossible, but they just work out.
You know, we're going to go down that rabbit hole. Are you a spiritual person?
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you always, or is it
No, I mean,
trickling?
like it was like at 18, I got a tattoo of a cross on my arm. My grandfather's a pastor. Like I always had that spirituality in me. As I like went through college, I don't want to say it wavered a little bit, but it just became less of a part of my life. Like some bad things happened, caught some tough breaks. But like as I moved out to AZ, like I started to believe a little bit more. I started to like just trust the process of doing like small things right. And then I started to see signs. Like for example, I was looking for, a new camera, a specific model, went through every model of camera that Sony possibly could have had, picked the exact model I wanted, and then was looking for a used one because newer ones were very expensive. Usually it's best to just buy a used camera. And when I went to go buy a used camera from a site, they had one more that was the price I was looking for. I purchased it and it got delivered from where I used to live in Ohio, Berea, Ohio. Out of everywhere in the United States, it came from where I just moved from in Ohio, Arizona. So that gave me chills when I saw it. I was like, it made me feel like I'm headed in the right direction. So just little things like that are just like, it doesn't make sense, but it does.
So yeah. So even if it's not like necessarily religious, like there's some connection between us and some universal force, energy, consciousness.
Absolutely.
It's in your name, conscious designs. Yeah. No, that is a big focus, I would say, in my life right now. I'm working on a podcast. I have a job. I'm running a business. So the podcast is my creative hobby. I'm doing all these things, but, I definitely think there's like a deeper meaning outside of all this doing, a deeper meaning into whatever soul, if you believe in souls, like has our body right now.
Absolutely. Like it just has to, like you can feel like when you're doing something that you love, like it fuels you. Like it puts like that little fire in your heart, like in your chest, you get that feeling of like, this is the right direction. And it's kind of like your intuition. Like you just kind of know.
Yeah. And going back on like what you were mentioning, there's like specific moments throughout your life that are almost testing you for moments that you have yet to experience. And it's like, if you never realize those lessons, you're always going to keep getting tested them. But if you realize the lessons, you'll be able to look back and be like, well, this is why I was challenged over that time period because it's showing up in my life now. It's kind of very broad, but
that's like just experience. Like that's why, life experience is one of like the most important things, that people look for in jobs and everything else. Cause there's nothing, that can teach you better than experience can.
Yeah. Would you say you've struggled at times with coming to the realization that what you're working on isn't what you're truly passionate about? Such as, I think you've mentioned being an athlete, you've mentioned nursing, you've mentioned being in the fitness scene.
Yeah.
All those, for example.
With all of those things, like they all had like a spot in my heart at some point of like, they could be my passions. And there was moments where you're good at something and you're like, okay, I'm good at this. Maybe this is what I should be doing for the rest of my life. And then there comes a point when you either see somebody who's good at it and you realize that they're much better than you, and you just don't have that drive anymore to like continuously like chase that, which is kind of what happened to me with fitness. Like I'd gotten to a point where I'd graduated school with a bachelor's in science and I was in an internship talking to somebody who is way smarter than me, has dedicated his entire life to fitness. And when we started getting down to like the nitty gritty, the parts that like I still didn't understand after getting a bachelor's, I just kind of like felt in my heart, I was like, I don't think I want to pursue this anymore. Like I don't feel the love in learning it anymore. Like it just feels like it wasn't for me. And I feel like that kind of is what happens with everything that kind of fades out. You just kind of realize you have like a come to Jesus moment that this just, this isn't making me happy anymore. So you just kind of move on.
So basically you saw that drive and passion and dedication in somebody else, and you just like ultimately didn't feel it in yourself.
Exactly. I'm like, how is it that he has so much more fire and love for this than I do? And I'm the one that just graduated school, like with all of these opportunities, like had an amazing internship with Derek that led me, to meeting you.
Yeah.
And like, I still
was he the one you're talking about?
He was, yeah, absolutely. Like,
yeah. I have a lot of respect for Derek.
No, great guy. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so thankful for him and that opportunity, and obviously led me to meeting a bunch of great people and one of the coolest experiences of my entire life.
Totally. And he's somebody who's so dedicated to that craft. And, I consider him a pretty good role model, and he's just somebody who inspires me in his work ethic and like his focus. It's not like I talk to him very often, but he's one of the few that I don't talk to very often.
Yeah. And I get it. Like, dude is busy. We're talking about Derek Millender. If you don't know who he is, Google him. But yeah, like he's just somebody who's got his stuff together and just kind of, knows what he wants and he chases it. And, that's motivational to see for a young person, for somebody who's looking to be molded by somebody. And even if, his passions didn't end up being my passions, just still seeing somebody with that drive and like, he's only going to do the right thing every single day. Like it motivated me.
Definitely. That's funny. That's what brought me into the studio that we both worked at the time, Rise Nation Cleveland. I took a Monday morning class with him one time, and I'm like, that energy, I need more of it in my life. And then I applied for a job.
And then you killed it, dude. You were amazing at it.
Dude, I still think back to those times. Funny enough, I actually just climbed on a Versa climber last night. Laura Patterson has a Versa climber now, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, occasionally I get to go over there and climb on it, and I'll fire up an old playlist, but like I think back to some of those times where I was on the mic and like I would laugh if I heard myself right now. Once again, that was like so critical for developing myself into who I am right now. Yeah, as embarrassed as I would probably be.
And like you were probably embarrassed, but to the people who are like waking up early mornings or just trying to go get a workout in, dude, you were so motivational. Because like some people just need a voice. Like even if you don't have that confidence, like just hearing that somebody at least has enough confidence to get up there and tell somebody like you can do this, like it keeps you going. It really does.
100%. And to all those instructors who ever stepped up on that stage, like, yeah, there was definitely meaning and purpose in all of it. And I think back to that moment too, like I feel like that was a critical point for me to recognize, like, I like talking in front of people for the right reason. Yeah. I don't want to be looked at by a million faces just for the fame. That's not important to me. But if there is a way for me to deliver value for a bunch of people, that's a way that fills me up with joy.
Yeah, you're doing it. Like I listened to like 3 or 4 of your podcasts in the past 2 days, and dude, I love them. I absolutely love them. Like the amount of like intelligent conversations that you have, it's great. Because sometimes I'll put a podcast on and I'm just kind of like, this is kind of rough to listen to, but it was very easy to get through all of your podcasts. And that's why I was so excited. I was like, I got to bring my A game, make sure I have the best quality when I come in here.
Well, hey, I mean, even when you said, when I'm big enough one day, let me get on there. Dude, you're big enough right now.
I appreciate
and it's
that.
Kind of me just like trying to shift that. It's that same confidence, I want to give myself, showing up as who we are today and being able to be enough right now. And like, that's something, not to keep talking because I have more questions for you, but like that is something I still struggle with that podcast, because I think before I even recorded one episode, I had the mindset like, okay, let me find guests who are like experts at something and just talk very little, love the cat, all about it. Talk very little, try to ask good questions and make them like the highlight. And that's still important to me, but recognizing that there's something valuable that I have to share without letting my ego take over.
This is your show. Like, you're the star. I mean, I would keep returning to a podcast because of you. Like, I mean, the guests are always important, but if you don't have that person who's kind of like leading them in the right way, they can get off on different kinds of tangents, just talking about who knows what. So you do a great job of leading the conversation.
So, thank you. Getting back on track, kind of touching on all this, like what would you say was once a dream that is now a living reality in your life?
Man, I don't want to be like a physical person. Like growing up, my like obsession and love of technology it was to, have a home and just be surrounded by like technology. Like I built my own computer. I have multiple cameras now, like lighting setups. Like there's no more excuse as to why I'm not creating things. And that's kind of the position I wanted to put myself in, is like, you have all the equipment now, like go do it. Like there's no more like, oh, I can't make that video because I don't have a mic or I don't have a nice camera. It's just, I really just push myself out there. I'm like, there's really no more excuses. So looking back, like even a year from now to where I am, like sitting here with my whole setup, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool what adult money can do.
Hell yeah. Are you doing anything else on the side right now other than conscious designs to make this a reality?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually am doing what got me out here to Arizona. I still bartend about three days a week. And that's how I afforded to move to Arizona in the first place. Is I worked at a nightclub in Cleveland bartending, Dante Inferno's, if you know where that is in the Flats.
You're a Dante's guy? Very interesting.
Yeah. And dude,
so were you booting people out of there all night?
Oh, bro, occasionally. There's been a couple of stories where like some people got a little bit too much and I was like, you gotta go.
Yeah.
But yeah, an amazing experience. I met a bunch of cool friends through that. Now got to meet a bunch of famous people, Bruno Mars, like a bunch of probably people that you wouldn't know, but like it was a great experience and allowed me to chase those dreams. And it's just one of those great skills to have where like you can make money wherever you go. And like people always need bartenders or
for sure.
Like,
yeah, I was in the restaurant scene from like 15 to 21 and actually really appreciated the life lessons just from the restaurant scene, who you work around.
Oh, yeah.
The people
It'll make you a people person real quick.
That's a good way to put it. Is the nightclub scene there? Are you working at a nightclub or more?
No, I couldn't do the 2 a.m.s anymore. I now work at a restaurant. It's a brewery, actually, and we close at 10 p.m. because
I support that much better on the brain.
The 2 a.m.s, those were rough. Coming home at like 4 a.m. and seeing the sunrise was cool for a little bit. But after I passed 24, I was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
And I feel like it's important for a creative to be able to like put themselves in environments where they're just going to be able to observe and people watch. And like, I always felt like the restaurant scene, the bar scene, it's one of those, like, obviously you have to interact, but at the same time, like you see these other living a different life than you. And it kind of like gives you ideas that may help with your art. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Disagree?
Absolutely. It gives you crazy perspective. I'm just seeing other people's lives, how they live them, their stories, because I get to meet people from all over the country that come to visit Arizona. I feel like I get a lot of wisdom from them. A lot of people are telling me their life stories about, their struggles, their successes, and just hearing those, like it builds like inside of you. Like you take that wisdom that they give you and you apply it to your own life. And it honestly, it does wonders because, it helps me in every single situation of life where I'm like, what should I do in this situation? Think back to maybe somebody told me a story about their struggles and just kind of helps you get through.
For sure. Is there anybody significant right now that you would say you look up to as an artist or even just as a person, whether you know them or not?
Yeah. There's a lot of them, to be honest with you. I'd have to find his name on Instagram, but there is an Instagram creator and I'll find it for you right now.
Yeah.
And he does amazing work. I was afraid of videos for the longest time. And this guy is literally the best person to follow on Instagram. Let's see. If you want, you can pull up another question while I find him and I'll come back to that.
Well, these are all coming straight from the brain. I used to outline like some sort of cadence that I wanted the podcast to be in, or the way I wanted it to flow with like questions. And
found him.
I just felt like for me to show up as my most authentic self on these podcasts, that didn't feel like it. Like I didn't want it to be too scripted.
Yeah, too many. You're right. It does. It's nice to be organic and kind of like see where it goes and lead it off. But his name is Adrian Per or Adrian Pear. His @ is OMG Adrian on Instagram.
See if I've ever seen
if you're
this
looking
guy.
into like creating content at all, this dude is head and shoulders like the best I've ever seen on Instagram. His tips, like tricks, are amazing.
OMG
Adrian. Yep. OMG ADRIAN. Like he literally will give you like a step-by-step on how to create amazing content. Like he'll show you how to write a script, how to insert shots, music, B-roll, everything. And he's been a huge help in me learning that process of being
Very
able
cool.
to create content.
Yeah, I like this. I like this style. Like if you scroll down his entire feed, like he's got that yellow lettering that just
Yeah, really makes it pop.
flows with all of his different backgrounds or whatever the image is. I wonder if it's just him or if he's got like a team
It's
that he
it's really
works with.
just him, which is insane. Dude's got a crazy work ethic. I think he posted like 365 days straight, which is really, really hard to do if you've ever made like video content.
How
Like
many
it
days straight?
365. He did a whole year,
For sure.
and that's shooting multiple shots, editing all of it, like
That
coming up
makes me
with
think of a
scripts.
question for you. Like what does your consistent creative habit or schedule look like?
So right now I am very, I would say, like customer based. I am working constantly with a couple of businesses, and then I'll constantly have people like messaging me asking them to help them with little projects. So it's tough right now to get my own content out there just because I'm so busy helping other people, which I enjoy. It's why I got into it. I didn't get into it to, become Instagram famous myself. I got into it to help other people feel more confident in either their business or, their passion projects, whatever it was. So I would say right now it's being home, messaging clients back and forth, getting on calls, because usually with every client I'll have about 2 calls, and then just kind of working off their feedback and just doing the best I can to, hit their vision right where they want it.
So it's basically preventing yourself from, well, I wouldn't say that sounds like a really harsh way to put it, but like, would you say you're not focusing on your own creative projects because of your client?
Yeah, it was like that
prioritization?
for I would say the first about the first 2 years. Like it's just now getting to the point where I'm starting to like lean in more on my, side of creating content. And that's, again, it has to do with the logo creation and my business being where I wanted it to be before I was ready to kind of push it out to the world. I've been absolutely blessed. Like, I cannot say how thankful I am to absolutely everybody that's believed in me up to this point, including you, because like I was not even confident in myself to push my business out to people to hit me up. And people are still constantly hitting me up for help. And that is just a testament to the people that I've worked with spreading the word and just being kind, and just people who I wouldn't say blindly, but just putting their faith in me to do a good job. And like I said, like sometimes you just need a couple of people to just believe in you, and then you start to build that confidence, and it's like a snowball. It just builds.
Definitely. And I definitely think there's some sort of law of attraction working there. I know there's some self-doubt in you, but also probably a lot of confidence and belief that's allowing that attraction to happen, and people flow to you.
And I'm trying to get better. I'm really trying to get better on the confidence side of things. I think where I lack it is just realizing, how much there is to learn and how much there is to know. And nobody's ever going to know everything. And I know I've made huge strides, like leaps and bounds in the past, couple of years. So it's just really exciting for me because I feel like I'm still pretty young, having found my passion, to be able to look to the future. And you could say the same for yourself and just being like, wow, like I can't imagine where I'm going to be in 5 years. Like I'm excited.
Definitely. Every year or like I look back on things I wrote, and like then I just thought I was breaking the surface. And even now I feel like everything I've consumed in the past, like 3 months, 6 months compounded, like it's always teaching me there's so much more that I don't know, but
And
I'm
it's
learning more.
addicting. It's addicting, isn't it?
I don't
Like
even know how to explain it.
you start to see like the small things compound, and then you're like, ooh, so I can just keep learning and keep getting better. And it gets addicting. Like you get excited to learn new things. And I never thought it would be like that, but that's how you really found your passion.
Definitely. One thing that I feel like for me, I've always had to work on and put a lot of effort into thinking about is how I value my time. How is that something that you struggle with? How you price yourself to your clients? How you value that time of yours?
Absolutely. And I've gotten a lot better with this exact thing because at first, it's one of those things you're like, I need clients. So you're just like, I'll take anything. Like, I don't care if you're going to give me $30, like hit me up, bro. Like, absolutely. And I still feel that way, for certain situations. Like if it's something that's close to my heart, if it's somebody who like you said, that law of attraction where like, I want to help you before you even ask me for help, it's understandable. But then, again, having that respect for my time and also realizing that this has to be, the way that I make my living, and I can't continue to do this if I burn myself out if I don't have enough money to support myself. So, it's a tough line to walk, but the more you do, I feel like the more experience you have, the more you realize like, you have to be a professional. Everything has to stay black and white, and it is the way that things have to be.
Has there been a potential client that you have turned down, said no to, or maybe even started working with and eventually said this isn't going to work out just based on what you saw develop?
Absolutely. And when you have clients that are, I don't want to say like a hard time, but they just kind of make it not as fun. They're almost too demanding. And it's not even about like the quality. It's just like little things that they don't know what they want. So they'll keep like flipping back and forth. When it becomes like to the point where like, all right, like at this point, I don't think we're being productive. And now I know how we work together. If you ask me like again to do something with you, I'm probably going to turn it down. Like if we don't work well the first time, I'm not sure it's going to be better the second time.
Definitely. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice.
Exactly.
Would you say those clients are exhibiting like a lack of trust in your abilities?
I don't
Or
know.
is it more of a reflection of their
trust.
like micromanaging behaviors? Maybe a mix of both.
A part of me really thinks it's that they don't know what they want. And with logos and stuff, like it's tough because there are obviously no like cement rules to logos, but there are little things like in the design world that are just like kind of big no-nos. And when people are like, just kind of ignore that, throw that out the window, and they're just like, just believe me, I know what I want. And then you make it for them and then they don't like it anyway. You're like, well, maybe if you would have just listened to me, we wouldn't be in this situation.
I really hope that wasn't me at times. I tried
absolutely not
to communicate my vision to you so much without like critiquing things and being a micromanager.
No, dude, you were so easy to work with. And that's why like every time you text me, I'm like in a heartbeat, like you can get whatever you need, bro. Like absolutely.
I think a big theme in my life lately has been understanding my own values and values that I'm also connected with in other people. Do you think about the values behind your brand, and do you think about the values behind the brand you're working with before you go into creating for them?
Absolutely. I don't want to help people if they're not passionate about what they're doing. And it's not even a money thing, honestly. If you don't love what you're doing, that's going to show when we work together, and that's going to show up in the end product. Like if you're just like, yeah, like I'm just kind of doing this thing, like it's whatever, like I don't really care, I just need it. I'm like, okay, well then just go pay somebody on Fiverr to do it for you. It'll cost you like $30 to get a logo. Like I'm not here to be that person. Like, of course I can do it, but I want to work with people who are truly passionate about what they're doing. And I want to help people, build up their vision and build up their businesses or passion projects. And even like when, I helped you, like I could see in your eyes that this was like a real passion for you. And like, you can tell because after you're done working with them, like it continues to grow. And like, look at you, like it's continuously growing and it's continuously getting better. And that's what brings me joy is like, I worked on this, I put my hard work and effort into it. And now like it's flourishing.
Is there a specific core value of yours that stands out that you'd be willing to share?
I think just being like a good human, just understanding that like it's business, like business, it feels cutthroat at times. Like it's what kept me, like I've always had like a negative view on business because, it's very black and white. Like you need this done by this date for this amount of money. This is the contract. Like that's it. And I look outside of that. Like I look at it from a human perspective. I had a couple of clients who had not paid for like some of the stuff that they had like December. And I extended their, like the money that they owed me. I was just like, you know what? I'll give you guys like an extra 30 days because I know that Christmas and New Year's are like right there in that like rough spot of where like people spend money on their families, people have kids. So I'm still struggling with that part of like, I'm a business and like, I need to be taken seriously, but also like I'm a human being. And like, I understand that like you got kids, you got a family you want to take care of. Like, I know I'm going to get paid. I'm not like dying to see that money. So like we can push your payment off a little bit.
I could understand that.
Yeah. And it's like I said, it's a back and forth. Like, I don't know if I'd ever do it again, but it's just like it bites like at your heart. Like you're like, it's hard to not be a good human.
Yeah. It's recognizing that line of like wanting to be able to serve people, but also not being taken advantage of.
Exactly. It's tough. And it's something that I'm probably going to get burnt on a few times. And it's something that I'm going to learn lessons on. And it's just,
Do you believe in karma?
I do. And that's probably why I do it, is because I believe in karma pretty hard. And I feel like I would not be where I am today if I have not done those good deeds, or what I think are good deeds, trying to help people out.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going back to some of the things we touched on earlier, I definitely believe that there's things, you know how we were talking about, like, there are moments in our lives, there are moments in our lives that lead us up to this point, and there's lessons we've experienced that can open our eyes right in the present and be like, oh, that's the meaning of that moment in the past. Like, for this
Absolutely.
present, I believe that there's a possibility that there are moments in different lifetimes before we were in this body of ours that were almost important for our soul and important for us to experience in this lifetime that we wouldn't even be able to like recognize until the next lifetime. So,
Exactly. Absolutely.
not to get too spacey there, but I think about that
I
all the
believe
time.
it. Yeah, I believe, like,
Yeah.
I truly do believe in all that stuff. And like, people can think it's goofy or whatever, but it's that positive energy. Like, it keeps you going when things get hard. Like, I've had a really tough start to 2025, lost a couple of people. Like, it's just like, when times get hard like that, when you feel down, you remember those, like, those little good moments, and it keeps you going. Like, it makes you realize, like, those bad things happen, but like, good things also happen. And it's just kind of like a balance beam. That's just life. Like, we're going to have ups and downs. And when you're at your lowest, like, there's nowhere else to go but up. So
Yeah, I think Chris Van Loan II said, like, he heard in another podcast, like, 50% of life is good, 50% of life is bad. It's just focusing on one or the other and having that awareness between the two.
and those people in your life that kind of only focus on the bad, and you kind of try to distance yourself from them, but you see both sides and you see how both of you live. And when you see how both of you live, how could you not believe that just choosing to look at the good isn't the better option?
It's hard though, because
It
we
is.
do experience certain upbringings that condition us, condition our belief systems, condition our behaviors that make it more challenging than others to just be able to.
And it's crazy too, because like, you can see it in the same exact family. You can see like two kids that were raised by the same person, and one of them is completely like down and one's completely up. And it's just because, like, even though they're in the same family, they're still living extremely different lives.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have two sisters.
Yeah. Are they back in
What about you?
Cleveland?
One of them's in AZ, and I think the other one, she's in Ohio, but she's talking about moving out here. So I might have both my
Yeah.
sisters out here real shortly.
Really cool. I do have two younger sisters myself as well.
Okay. So Are
Yeah.
you the only? We're both the only boy.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty cool.
We love that.
What I'm personally curious, do you think you're building a long-term life in Arizona?
I do. I absolutely love it out here. And that possibly could change. I mean, I always have that thought in the back of my mind of moving to Puerto Rico. That's where my grandparents came from. Everybody kind of always wants to live that island life. So it's a dream for me, but I think for now, in the distant future, I'm trying to build that life for myself here in Arizona.
Hey, what's the longest, I know you have like cultural roots back to Puerto Rico. What is the longest time you spent on the island?
And I've only
Like
been there
a couple
one
weeks
time.
at a time?
Yeah,
Oh,
it
you've
was
only
a
been there
week
one time?
as a kid, and my great grandparents have a house out there still in the family. So I am desperate to get back out there and hopefully go on a trip with my grandparents and just take them back there and just enjoy it.
What's
and
their
learn.
land like? Are they in the city, or are they like in the middle of the island?
No, they're kind of in like a nice small neighborhood. They have, a fruit tree in the front. They used to have chickens running around the back. Yeah, it was
That's
it
what I'm
was a
talking
dream,
about.
dude. Yeah, like, it was amazing.
I've done a lot of research into Puerto Rico because there are like advantageous tax benefits to like relocating to Puerto Rico for the full time, but like you have to be okay with some of the trade-offs going to that type of small.
Yeah, you gotta
I mean,
learn a little
it's
bit
a
of
part of the
Spanish
U.S.,
too.
but
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be really cool.
it would be.
If you ever did that one day, if it aligns with what you want, who you are.
Yeah, and then we both hopefully, pray we have long lives, and we get the opportunity to take a chunk of that time and go do something crazy like that, and just go explore new things. As much as I love Ohio and I love Arizona, like, I'd love to see more of the world. And I'm sure a lot of people feel that way about, where they are.
How did you choose Arizona when you were back in Ohio?
So my fiance and my sister, both of our sisters, lived out here. So we had come to visit like 2 times, I would say. And on the second time, I just kind of realized how much happier I was just doing nothing. Like I'd be out here for like a day and just not have anything planned, just drive around and just seeing nothing but blue skies and mountains surrounding me. And made a difference. So I was like, this is going to be it for me. Like, this is my dream. I didn't have a passion at the time, so I didn't have anything else to focus on, because that was around the time where I realized that, exercise science wasn't going to be for me. So my mindset completely shifted to, all right, then I need, like a change in scenery. So I had, about a year and a half to just save up a bunch of money and just say, screw it, we're driving out to Arizona.
Would you say Cleveland was blocking some of the creativity that is now flowing through you today?
I don't. I think the biggest difference in places was it was just opportunity. My brother-in-law was out here, so being around them, they're amazing, creative people, and being around them helps. It helped my mindset. It helped my work ethic. Just seeing people who were living the life that I felt like I wanted to live like, that's truly what made the difference. Is if you have that mentor, that those people that you look up to, you want to be around them because they're going to make you better people. And I had those mentors in Cleveland, but it was just on the exercise science side of things. So like when I kind of fell out of love with it, I felt lost. But dude, I still go back to Cleveland. I went back to Cleveland for the holidays, and walking around the city, dude, so much love, and just absolutely love Cleveland. I'm going to love Cleveland until the day I die. Like I will always consider myself, an Ohio boy.
For sure.
It's just,
there's a unique vibe here.
Yeah, dude, it's the city, it's alive. And like, I can't believe that people, look down on Cleveland, because if you have ever spent a couple days there, like, dude, it's a beautiful place, and the people are amazing. The food is amazing. It's just the environment. There's so much to do down there. I will always love Cleveland.
Definitely. And I mean, I'm somebody who wrestles with wanting to experience other parts of the world while also feeling extremely connected to this place and needing that time to change my perspective, put myself in a different environment to allow myself to see something new, experience new cultures. So I wrestle with that.
Yeah, and it's tough because, like if it wasn't for my fiance, she absolutely was just like, we're never moving back to Cleveland. I've had those thoughts in my head. I'm like, I could live in Cleveland for the rest of my life. Like if I was downtown, I could do it.
Yeah, I understand that. So I want to know, I asked earlier about what was a dream of yours that's now a reality. What is a dream of yours right now that is on its way to becoming a reality?
I would say a dream that's on its way of becoming a reality is just Conscious Designs becoming like a real business that is successful, takes care of me, and hopefully allows me to take care of, other people. I would love to hire other creatives on and build this agency out. And I'm hoping to be able to do that here very shortly. And it's a dream of mine, but like as I continue to be successful and continue to get clients, I'm not going to be able to do it all by myself for much longer. Like you said, the respecting your own time comes into play. So fingers crossed here, hopefully in like the next year or two, I can build my Conscious Designs team out a little bit more.
Definitely.
And that's the dream.
I can't say I can help with the agency side, but if there's ever something you need, feel free to drop it by me in a text, because I'm not saying I can directly help, but I feel like one of the best ways I actually serve the world is by connecting people. If
Absolutely.
There's ever like some sort of keys to your business that you're looking to fill, if I can connect the right person to you, never hesitate to reach out.
And you have a huge skill in today's world, and being able to run your own podcast, that is invaluable. I think every business should kind of have their own podcast, believe it or not. Like a great one to look at would be like Barstool. Like I know that they are like a content business, but just seeing like how some of their podcasts have absolutely blown up, it's truly made me believe that every single business should have their own podcast. So I think like, the demand for people like you that know how to do it and know how to do it successfully, it's just going to continue to grow, because with how the world is changing, I mean, we're both definitely in the right place. You see how like AI and just electronics, like it's just trending that way. So absolutely.
Yeah, it's an incredible way to, if you do it right, build trust with people over time. And, there could be a podcast episode that's dropped right now that somebody won't hear until 2 years from now, but it will be like the most important thing that they hear at that time.
which is insane, right?
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it's crazy too because with content, you got to keep it real short. Like you get 3 minutes to kind of, get it right, say what you need to say. It's usually pretty tough to get people to watch YouTube videos unless you're constant, like keeping it going. So podcasts are nice because they're kind of like those one-offs. Like I might just pick up somebody's random podcast one day. Like if I got a long drive, just be like, hey, I'll listen to it. I follow the guy or I've talked to them once and they have their own podcast. Like I'll listen to their podcast. So it's really cool. And I have a lot of love for podcasts.
Hell yeah. Well, speaking of love for podcasts, is there anything that you would like to leave my millions of listeners with as we get close to signing off here?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the biggest thing is if life is not going the way, you want it to, you're, not where you want to be. If you don't have that passion yet in life, just keep looking, but you can't stop looking because if you stop looking, you're giving up. And I know we all have dreams as kids. I had a dream I was going to play in the NFL and like sometimes dreams just don't work out, but it's not the end. You got to keep looking for your dream, keep looking for your passion. Because when you find that passion, like I was telling him, like you're going to feel that fire in your chest again, and it's going to make it worth every single day. You're going to wake up and you're going to have that vision of like, this is the journey that I'm supposed to be on. And it makes life 1,000 times easier. So, if there's anybody out there that needs help with branding, photography, videography, whatever, hit me up at Conscious Designs. Thank you so much, by the way, for having me on. It's been awesome. And I hope maybe we can do this again one day.
Of course. Yeah. I am willing to let our creativity be recognized by important people. And that's going to happen again in the future. That is a daily affirmation of mine. And I hope whoever's listening steals that because it's an extremely valuable one if you're putting out good work into this world. So this universe.
Thank you, man. You are the best, Clayton.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. Like, absolutely. This was one of the coolest experiences of my life. I was so excited for this. So thank you so much.